Welcome to Intuitive Astrology with Molly McCord. Thank you so much for joining me today as we dive into an area of astrology that I hope supports you in knowing your own energy more and understanding your chart better. In today's show, we're going to discuss your two ruling planets in your astrology chart. We're going to talk about where your energy is further defined. This is going to help you understand more about yourself and your personality. And this is also going to help you prioritize energies in your astrology chart. There are many, many layers in the world of astrology. Just in your own natal chart alone, there are many layers of energies that we dive into and understand more as we study astrology, but really study your own chart. And that's something that can take a long time. And that's actually what can be really fascinating about your astrology chart, is that you can see something new or different or from a new angle every time you look at your chart. So in today's show, we're going to talk about your two ruling planets. And you might be familiar with this information or it may be new to you, but I hope it helps you pinpoint more about your own personality and your own energy. Now, your two ruling planets are connected to your sun sign's energy and your rising sign. So your sun sign is in a particular astrological sign. And then that astrological sign is ruled by a specific planet or planets. So if your sun is the pilot, the ruling planet is the co-pilot. And most people know their sun sign. So chances are you're already aware that, your sun is in Leo, your sun is in Scorpio, your sun is in Gemini. Now we're going to talk about your ruling planet. And then the second important planet to know is called your chart ruler. And this is connected with your ascendant or your rising sign. Now, your rising sign is how you present yourself to the world. It's how people know you. It's their first impression. Some consider it the mask we wear before really getting to know somebody. Your first impression of another person is probably associated with their rising sign, just like their first impression of you is associated with your ascendant or your rising sign. Now, the rising sign is also connected to your aura and to the energy you exude, what you put out there, and what you offer through your own energy field. So we're going to talk about the rising sign energies as they're connected to what's called the chart ruler. And the chart ruling planet is the planet that rules your rising sign. So if your rising sign is Capricorn, your chart ruler is Saturn, because Saturn rules Capricorn. So 2 pieces of information you want to know for yourself: your sun sign and your rising sign. And granted, most people know that, but I wanted to give you a heads up in case you are a beginner or you're just discovering this information for the first time. This is where we're looking in your chart to get these specifics. And I'll be going through every astrology sign and talking about the planet it's associated with. Now, you might be wondering, well, what's more important? Is my sun sign ruler more important, or is my chart ruler more important? And the answer is they're both important, and they both can have very different energies. This is where astrology becomes more individualized and specific, but this is where you want to know what these two planets are for you. Now, there's 2 layers of this energy as well. Okay, so let's say you already know your chart ruler is Saturn, and then your sun is in Taurus, so then your ruling planet is Venus. This means that in your astrology chart, both Venus and Saturn are important in better knowing yourself in your natal chart. And that's because of how each of these is a co-pilot. It's a supporting energy. It's also a further defining energy. And it elevates both Venus and Saturn in importance in your energy field. So that's why you want to know these, because when you're looking at your natal astrology chart, your sun's ruling planet and your rising sign ruling planet are stronger simply because they support the sun and they support your rising sign. Now, When you were born, the energy in your natal chart is a snapshot down to the minute of where the planets were at birth. And then, of course, the planets keep moving. They keep transiting and keep moving all around us. So your natal chart is a snapshot of your energy at birth. And then we have the transiting planets that are still working with us every day. And this is, in fact, the energy I talk about in every Wednesday podcast. And so that planet, both Saturn and Venus, in this example, keep rotating, and they are transiting planets, which are also more important for you in your own energy. So if your sun is in Taurus, and that would make Venus your ruling planet, whatever Venus does is more important for you. So what I mean by that is when there's a Venus retrograde, that Venus retrograde is talking to your sun in Taurus. Now, when that Venus is feeling strong or she's in good energy in your chart, your sun also is connecting with her through that energy. So this is why it's important to know the ruling planet, because your sun is always in communication with that planet. They're always connected energetically. And then the same is true for the rising sign. The rising sign's ruling planet. And this energy is known as your chart ruler, because the rising sign is the first energy of your astrology chart, and then the planet is the chart ruler. So in my example here, if Capricorn is your rising sign or your ascendant, then the chart ruler is Saturn. And transiting Saturn is very important for you. Wherever transiting Saturn is moving through in your astrology chart, that energy is communicating with your sense of self, which is the rising sign. It's the ruler of the first house, the personal identity, your physical body, your presence, the energy you give off. Saturn is always communicating with that part of you, that part of your consciousness. And so when Saturn is in retrograde, that energy is talking to your physical self, your consciousness, your body. That energy is talking to how you come across, how you present yourself, and your first impressions. So again, this energy of the ruling planet is a co-pilot to that rising sign energy and to your sun sign energy. It's possible to have 3 or even 4 ruling planets because some astrological signs are ruled by 2 planets. For example, Virgo. Virgo is typically associated with Mercury, Mercury being the mind, and in Virgo being the analyzer, the expert, the specialist. Virgo is gifted with a very clear mind and intelligence, and that is connected to Mercury. However, Virgo is also associated with Chiron now, and this is something that's been further developed and agreed upon through many astrologers, that Chiron is connected with Virgo because Chiron's about the body and healing the body and self-care and what the body needs. In fact, Chiron is in its home sign in Virgo. So this energy is also associated with Virgo. So if your sun sign or ascendant is in Virgo, both Mercury and Chiron are important for you. Both are important in your natal chart, and both are important through transiting energies. And there are so many combinations that can arise. So it'll be a little tricky for me to cover every potential combination. But if you are a double Virgo, if you have your sun in Virgo and your rising sign is in Virgo, then your ruling planets are Mercury and Chiron, and they are doubly emphasized. They're even more important to you since they're connected to both your sun sign, which is your personality, how you're developing your sense of self, where you feel confident, where you're here to demonstrate your skills, your abilities, your knowledge, your sense of self, and then through your rising sign, which is, again, your body, your physical energy, how you present yourself visually, how you're sharing your energy with the world and what that communicates before anything is spoken or said. Now, another astrological sign that's connected with 2 planets is Scorpio. Scorpio is connected to the energy of Pluto, and it's connected to the energy of Mars. Now, because Pluto moves so slowly, it doesn't have as many areas of your chart. It doesn't cover as many areas of your chart as the other planets that move faster. But in your natal chart, Pluto would be important, and so would Mars. So let's say in this example, if your sun is in Virgo, 2 ruling planets, Mercury and Chiron. If your rising sign is Scorpio, 2 chart rulers. 2 chart rulers, one is Pluto and the other is Mars. So then you would have 4 planets that are all important. And I know too that now you're asking, well, which is the most important? Well, they're each important for different reasons. So try not to go into too much comparison. Try not to think, oh, well, one of them has to be number 1. That's probably something that you're going to discover or know for yourself through your own experiences. And it also depends on the energies in the natal chart and which planets are more heavily aspected or have more energy to them. So you could have a very strong and prominent Chiron, especially if Chiron is near the midheaven or Chiron perhaps is even near your ascendant. So this is where it gets very specialized, and I can't cover them all, but just know that when you can identify the ruling planets and their importance in your life, then you can go deeper into further understanding which ones speak to you the most, which ones you felt throughout your life. You can also start to identify more of your own life themes when you get to know these ruling planets for yourself. So I just gave you an example where you could have 4 planets that are important. And these 4 planets are important in your natal chart, and they're important as they transit around your chart. So this is where you can understand which transiting planets you maybe feel more, or you're more in sync with their cycle, whether it's through their retrogrades or as they change signs, and especially as they move through different houses. Okay, so in that example, there would be 4 ruling planets. Now it's possible to only have 1 ruling planet, which means that if you have your sun in Libra and your ascendant is in Libra, then your ruling planet would be Venus. And Venus rules Libra. So sun is in Libra, ruled by Venus. Ascendant in Libra, ruled by Venus. You would have 1 planet in your chart that's more prominent. And then the energies of Venus would always be important to you and would also show what you're developing in this lifetime. So now I'm going to go through all 12 astrology signs and talk about their ruling planet. And this is where you can follow along and identify, of course, your sun sign and then your rising sign. And this is going to help you know where to put more focus on energies that you're working with in this lifetime. So if your sun or rising sign is in Aries, Aries is ruled by Mars. Mars in your natal chart is important, and transiting Mars is important for you. So this elevates Mars if you have your sun or rising in Aries. Also note that Mars can be in any astrology sign in your chart, and this is very important to understand because Mars could be far away from your sun, or it could be in any house, any astrological sign, and that's not always the case for every ruling planet. For example, in our next one here, if your sun or rising sign is in Taurus, Venus is your ruling planet, and it can be within 2 astrological signs of your sun. So typically with the sun in Taurus, Venus is either in Pisces, Aries, Taurus, Gemini, or Cancer. The way that Venus orbits around, she's usually right around the sun. She doesn't travel much further away from the sun than 2 astrological signs. So Venus is important for you. She's important in your natal chart, and she's important for you as she transits around the zodiac. If your sun or rising is in Gemini, your ruling planet is Mercury. Mercury is the fastest moving planet, and it usually travels within orbit of the sun. And of course, you're very familiar with the Mercury retrograde energies. So if Mercury is one of your ruling planets, the Mercury retrogrades work with you more personally, and perhaps you've understood that throughout your life, especially if you've known you're a Gemini or you know that you have Gemini rising. The Mercury retrogrades are usually energies that you would feel and sense even more. Now, if you have your sun or your rising sign in Cancer, then your ruling planet is the moon. Now, the moon is a fast-moving light that moves through the full zodiac every 28 to 29 days. So this is an important energy to be aware of because you're very much connected to the lunar cycles and the lunar tides. And your sun or rising in Cancer may really feel the impact of every new moon or full moon or whatever the moon is doing in your chart. Very important to watch the moon as it moves around your natal chart, to stay aware of which house it's in and which astrological sign it is in, because your sun or rising in Cancer is really feeling those energies, and this is something that you can sync up with and work with intentionally. If your sun or rising sign are in Leo, well, you are deeply connected to the sun because that Leo energy is ruled by the sun. So this brings more prominence to your sun sign. And with your sun in Leo, obviously that brings more energy to the sun in Leo. But if your rising sign is Leo and your sun sign is, say, Aquarius, that rising sign in Leo is talking to your sun in Aquarius as well. So the rising sign is important here in Leo because it means it's going to shine that energy right back to your natal sun. And of course, your sun could be in Taurus or your sun could be in Pisces. There's so many places this can show up. The energy trail can show up. But just know that with that Leo energy, the sun is more prominent, and it shows where you are developing more of yourself in this lifetime, your sense of self-knowingness, your confidence, your ability to be who you are in the world. Now, if your sun sign or your rising sign is in Virgo, as I mentioned in the earlier example, you are ruled by both Mercury and Chiron. So in your natal chart, Mercury is more important, and you may be feeling and sensing the energies of Mercury retrograde as they happen. And then Chiron is also important for you, as it shows more of what you're healing and more of what you need to take care of in yourself in this lifetime. So if your sun or rising sign are in Virgo, that brings prominence to your natal Mercury, your natal Chiron, but then also the transiting energies of both of these planets. If Libra is your sun sign or your rising sign, then this brings importance to Venus as your ruling planet. The Venus energy is important in terms of what you are developing in this lifetime around your self-worth, relationships, how you connect, and how you form a deeper sense of love for yourself in this lifetime. So Venus in your astrology chart is more important, and transiting Venus is more important for you as well. Venus goes retrograde every 18 months or so. That's about every year and a half. And that would be important for you to see where she is retrograding in your natal chart and what that brings up for you in your life. Now, if your sun sign or rising sign is in Scorpio, then you have 2 ruling planets. And as I mentioned earlier, they are Mars and Pluto. So in your natal chart, Mars is more important and Pluto is more significant. And this also pertains to these planets as they transit around your chart. Now, because Pluto moves so slowly, we tend to look at Mars as more of the daily energy, as perhaps what you feel more strongly at times, unless there is a significant Pluto transit happening in your life, which is going to bring up those very deep Scorpio themes of transformation, power, and how you are understanding yourself even more. If your sun sign or rising sign is in Sagittarius, this brings importance to Jupiter. Jupiter in your natal chart and transiting Jupiter. And this is because that sun in Sagittarius is ruled by Jupiter and is therefore always in communication and talking to Jupiter. So you would look at what Jupiter is amplifying and expanding for you in your natal chart. And then you would also be looking for where transiting Jupiter is moving through your various houses and astrology signs and what it's opening up for you there. If your sun sign or rising sign is in Capricorn, then Saturn is more important to you and it is one of your ruling planets. That Saturn energy is very important in your natal chart. Saturn could be in any astrological sign, and it's going to bring a focus to that part of your life and yourself. And then transiting Saturn is also going to be important for you to understand and connect with, as this is the energy that's always in communication with your sun sign and or your rising sign in Capricorn. If your sun sign or your rising sign is in Aquarius, then your energy naturally correlates to the placement of Uranus in your chart. Aquarius is also co-ruled by Saturn, so you may also want to look at Saturn in your natal chart if you have Aquarius ascending or your sun in Aquarius. The other energy that I commonly look to with Aquarius is also Mercury, and that's because of how Mercury is the lower octave of Uranus. So I just gave you 3 planets that are associated with Aquarius. Uranus is usually the strongest. Saturn is a co-ruler, but Mercury is the lower octave of Uranus, and it may strongly resonate with you that this Mercury energy is connected to your sense of self, what you think, how you share, what you communicate. This is also similar to the energy of Scorpio, where Pluto and Mars co-rule Scorpio. Mars is the lower octave of Pluto. So when we have an outer planet that is the ruler of an astrology sign, the lower octave, meaning the personal planet, may also be significant. And you can see this is how astrology becomes very personal, where you can really understand more about who you are and how your energy works. So again, for Aquarius, you might resonate with Uranus, Saturn, and Mercury as strong planets in your chart, or you may resonate with just one. You might think, no, Uranus is really my ruling planet. Or maybe you really feel that Saturn is your ruling planet. And again, you could also feel a very strong connection to your natal Mercury. So this is where you would want to look at your chart and see which of these energies is more prominent for you. Which energies are stronger, which energies are clearer, and what you resonate with more, especially in regards to Aquarian energy. Now, the 12th and final sign is the sun or rising sign in Pisces. Pisces is ruled by Neptune, so this brings Neptune into importance in your chart, and that is your natal Neptune. Whatever sign and house your natal Neptune is in, it has more prominence in terms of it's corresponding and talking to either your sun in Pisces or your ascendant in Pisces. And Neptune is one of the outer planets that moves very slowly. And so because of this, we could also look at the lower octave of Neptune, which is Venus. So if you have Sun in Pisces or rising sign in Pisces, you may also feel a resonance with your natal Venus, especially by transiting energies. I have a separate video for you that talks about the lower octaves and higher octaves of the planets and how they're related. And that might be of interest as well if you want to go into this more. When we talk about ruling planets, what we're looking for is which energies are stronger in your chart. And this is one way to find that. So with the Neptune energy, depending on how strong Neptune is in your chart, you may strongly resonate with it. And then you also may strongly resonate with the energy of Venus. And this topic is a wonderful example of how astrology starts off simple and can quickly become more complex and individualized, how it becomes more personal, because there are energies that in fact, only you know what is resonating with you and what feels strong for you. So for example, if your rising sign is Pisces, and if you have Venus on your midheaven or Venus conjunct your sun or Venus in your first house, then you're naturally going to feel that Venus energy is stronger for you. However, if you have Pisces rising and your Neptune is working strongly in your chart, your Neptune is prominent, it's well supported, even if it's under tension, but it's a strong energy, then you're naturally going to feel that Neptune influence is very strong for you. I do recommend getting a book on one of these energies for you, especially if it's an outer planet, because it's going to help you understand more about that planet's intentions, themes, and energies, and it could even highlight or pinpoint more of your own growth and development in this lifetime. So let me talk a little bit more about these ruling planets now that we've identified which planet is associated with each astrological sign, and in some cases, multiple planets are connected with each astrological sign. What this energy is doing is it's supporting the development of your sun sign. So your sun is here to shine, to exude confidence. It's your sense of self that's always growing and developing throughout your life. When you look at the ruling planet of your sun sign, that's the co-pilot. That's the energy that's supporting your sun and talking to your sun and showing you more about who you are. And so focusing in on that ruling planet is going to give you more layers, more understanding, and more specifics about how your sun operates. Because it's very different, especially if, for example, your sun is in Aries. Well, that Aries energy is going to function differently depending on where your Mars is. And so someone with the sun in Aries and Mars in Aries is going to have a very intense, fast-moving energy, a lot of motivation, a lot of energy every day, which is going to be different than someone who has sun in Aries and Mars in Capricorn. Because that Mars can be in any astrological sign. And that's why people who have the sun in Aries can be very different, because their Mars operates in a very different manner. That Mars in Capricorn is calculated, strategic, it goes slower. It's not going to just take off and do something right away. It's going to think it through and be more responsible and more productive. That's a very different Mars than Mars in Aries. So that's why it's fascinating to look at the ruling planet, because it's going to tell you more about your own energy. And then, of course, the same is true for your sun in Cancer, which will be connected to your natal moon. And whatever your natal moon is feeling, sensing, needing is going to be communicated to your sun in Cancer. And then same is true if your sun is in Sagittarius. Whatever your natal Jupiter is about is going to correlate to your sun in Sag. And that's why, again, you can have people who have a very active, open, boisterous sun in Sagittarius, and maybe that's because their natal Jupiter is in Sagittarius as well, or maybe their natal Jupiter is in another fire sign, even an air sign. And that's going to add a lot of energy to that sun sign. But if Jupiter is in Virgo, that's a very different energy. That's more particular. That's the specialist. That's the energy of wanting to go slow, take small steps, not bite off more than you can chew. That's a very different Jupiter in Virgo than, say, Jupiter in Sag or Jupiter in Leo. So that ruling planet connected to your sun sign is further defining and growing your sense of self. And that's why it's wonderful to know this, because it explains that next layer of energy. It explains why you might feel so different from other people with the same sun sign. Of course, that's just one understanding, and we have many variables in astrology. And then when we look at your chart ruler, which is the ruling planet associated with your rising sign, right, as we just went through, that energy is always talking to your body, your physical self, how you present yourself. It's speaking to your sense of self, since the rising sign rules the first house of self-identity. What do I want? Who am I? What matters to me? It's often more subjective. So that chart ruler is talking to your body, your sense of self, how you present yourself, what matters to you in terms of your physical appearance, how you feel good about putting your best foot forward. So if your rising sign is Gemini, then you would present yourself as a communicator, a thinker, a talker. You may be really good at engaging people in conversations, sharing information. Then your natal Mercury is how you communicate that, and it's going to be very different. If your Mercury is in Cancer, then you could actually be a bit more reserved in your communication style, where you want to sense the environment first. You're looking to see what feels right, if you want to say something, if you don't. That Mercury in Cancer is going to talk to your Gemini rising in a different way than if your Mercury is in Leo. Because Mercury in Leo is very proud and demonstrative and very colorful and has maybe a lot to express and enjoys public speaking. So that Mercury is going to be working with and influencing your rising sign depending on its natal placement. And it's always going to be talking to your body. And this can be wonderful to understand, is that your chart ruler, which is again the energy connected to your ascendant or rising sign, the chart ruling planet is connected to your body consciousness, to your physical self, to more about the layers of your daily energy and what you need. So this is really fascinating to look at what you may require energetically or at a physical level because of your chart ruler. And in that example with the Gemini rising, it brings importance to your natal Gemini, and then also the transiting Mercury. It brings importance to your natal Mercury and transiting Mercury. And the transiting Mercury is going to be talking to your body consciousness. So this is where sometimes people want to change their appearance. They want a makeover, or they want to get in shape. They want to do something that supports their physical energy. Chances are that energy is connected to the chart ruler. Whatever that chart ruling planet is doing is, again, talking to your body, talking to your sense of self, how you present yourself in the world, what you want to show others. So I hope this has been informative and interesting. I hope it's given you some more to understand in your own natal astrology chart. And just to review, your sun sign has a ruling planet or planets. Your rising sign has a ruling planet or ruling planets, and that is called the chart ruler. So this is great to know. It helps you hone in on more specifics in your astrology chart, what has more importance and more prominence, what to be aware of in terms of the transiting energies, as well as which planets are always in communication and talking to both your sun sign and your rising sign energies. And it can be pretty cool to go into more of these specifics because it's going to open up more of who you are, more of your own understanding of self, and show you how to be more conscious of your own energy and how you move through the world, as well as how you get to know yourself, because both the sun sign and the rising sign energies are about our self-identity. So, thank you so much for joining me. I hope this has been interesting and something new to check out in your chart. And I'll be back every Wednesday and Monday for a new podcast episode. I do teach a variety of astrology classes, and you can check them out below this podcast episode. There's beginner and then intermediate courses, depending on where you're at and what you want to dive into. Most of them are geared towards those with more intermediate level knowledge. But I also have the introductory course as well. So thank you as always. I wish you a beautiful day ahead, especially as you further develop your astrological knowledge. And I also hope to see you back here very soon. Also, thank you so much to those of you who have subscribed, commented, and shared. I'm so happy that more people are into astrology these days and want this information, want to learn more. And please note that you can always find more astrology topics on my YouTube playlists, where there's a variety of playlists that help you learn more about your astrology chart, learn more about transits, and learn more about this huge world of astrology. Take good care, and I will see you back here very soon for our next podcast episode.